Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I've been joined by Mark and Rich, two of the men behind Total War Warhammer. And of course, the world is trembling with anticipation of its impending release. So, gentlemen, what have you found the most challenging aspects of translating what was a tabletop game into a PC game?
I think that has to be just the vast lore that is available in the Warhammer universe. That is a challenge because, there's so much of it and we want to cram as much of it in as possible. Also the fact that quintessentially, Warhammer is a tabletop battle game. It's not a campaign game. It has campaign in its lore, but we had to find ways in which that works for each of these races. So hence why we are at the races that we have now. They fit very well into a particular part of the Warhammer world, the old world itself. And we felt that actually they had very diverse rosters from one another. The vampires here today, everyone's seeing that and not familiar with the Warhammer lore, that they don't have missile troops, they don't have artillery pieces, but they have magic and they have, monsters and flying units to offer, which is very different to, say, the dwarves or even the orcs and the Empire.
Have you had to be careful to keep the game relatively simple because the factions are so different? That's going to add a layer of complication that you don't usually have.
I think Total War quintessentially isn't that simple, and we do need to keep this game still true to the Total War fans as much as the Warhammer fans, and this has been a very fine juggling act between the two, where we feel like we want to appeal to both parties and that they both enjoy the game for whatever it is that they enjoy or aspire to seeing and playing. So we've kept in a lot of the systems that the Total War fans are used to. We have diplomacy still, but not for everybody. Some people have, like the Empire for example, are very much diplomatic heavy as opposed to the Orcs. Karl Franz is looking to unify the Empire. Boris Todbringer obviously is slightly opposed to that, along with some of the other elector counts. Whereas the Orcs, they're more about rampaging around, causing wars and having animosity within their numbers.
Have you found yourself walking a bit of a tightrope between the two communities, trying to appease two different sets of fans with this game?
I think so. There are some difficulties, but I think a lot of Total War fans are familiar with Warhammer, and some might actually play the game and enjoy both. But at the same time, I think a lot of the Total War fans have kind of been clamouring for a more fantasy style game. So I think this is a great way to sort of appeal to them, and it's a great way for us to kind of expand the market and appeal to this broader range of people who are familiar with Warhammer but maybe haven't played a Total War game before. So yeah, it's there's a lot of people now that we're trying to appeal to.
One thing that's been really nice about working on this project is you wouldn't believe the number of Warhammer fans that we actually have in our team. Everybody's sort of come out and said, oh, you know what, like for me, it's like, for example, I love the Lizardmen race. Mark plays with the Greenskins, and Games Workshop are kind enough to send us all the miniatures across the ranges for not only us to play the game, which we have a Warhammer room and we act out the 8th edition rules, but also for the artists and the animators to get much closer to the actual miniatures themselves, to represent them in our game, like how they see the miniatures that Games Workshop create.
Have you found that, well, since you're normally working within history, I'm sure you have people complaining that maybe there's the wrong number of buttons on someone's historical uniform. Have you found that Warhammer fans are the same way? Equally nitpicky?
Yeah, people will be. I mean, some people are obviously going to have more knowledge than others. We are really digging deep as much as we can to make it as authentic as possible. But we do have some restrictions. Obviously, being a video game, there's certain things gameplay-wise that we have to adhere to. So not everybody might, be a certain colour, for example, on their heraldry. But where at all possible, we do look to to have that. Likewise with all the abilities and things. If something fits, and it fits Total War as much as Warhammer, then we'll put it in the game. But if it doesn't, for whatever reason, then we might reserve to hold that back.
And if you delve deeply into all the various texts and illustrations of the past, because, for example, the monsters in the Warhammer world, you don't exactly have any animation to look at to see how, for example, they would move.
Yeah, that's a great point. The wyvern, to give you an example, is this fantastical creature that there's no kind of point of reference for how that would move. You know, we have the miniature in the studio, so we can create an accurate model of that. But one of the tough things for animators was to figure out how exactly that would move and how they could reproduce that in the game. So one thing they did was look at some of the real world animals that might kind of match that in some ways. So for example, they looked at how bats moved. So you know, they used their wings to sort of crawl along the floor. So that's sort of what they use as a point of reference for how they would, you know, move on land.
And I have to say the bats in the game do actually look a lot better than the miniatures of the bats that are currently available. Now, with the Games Workshop's recent move to basically destroy the old world that you're working in now, have you felt any added pressure since you're really the ones continuing the legacy?
I don't think so. I think you know, they've left so much, such a wealth of you know, amazing resources. All the army books and the miniatures. You know, we've got so much to work with. It's made our lives quite easy, really. I think
it was a game that we wanted to work on as well. It's the game that we've all grown up and associated with, you know, throughout our lives. So it's the game that we feel very connected and fond of. So bringing all these armies to life is an absolute joy. So we want to do it justice. We want to make, you know, obviously, hopefully everybody has a great time playing it and tries out the different races. You know, I know a lot of people have a real, you know, fondness towards one, but you know, hopefully some of the little, you know, features that we're bringing out, like vampires raising the dead on the Battlefield Order campaign, that might inspire, say, the greenskin players to try those out. You know, once they finish their starting campaign. We've also made a concerted effort to look at the characters. We understand that characters form a very important part of the Warhammer lore, and albeit maybe you don't field them in your tabletop battles because they're quite expensive point wise, we wanted to make sure that they were you know, at the forefront of our battles, and that you get to journey along with them. You get to see who Karl Franz is and equip him with his legendary items like Gal Maraz and the Silver Seal and the Reichland Runefang. So we do pay close attention to the makeup of those characters, their abilities, obviously the look of them that the artist has done an amazing job on, and you know, what ultimately will be their victory conditions. Each race has very different victory conditions to one another. So playing as one race, you might be challenged to, you know, confederate a number of sub-factions together. You might be asked to raise and sack and accumulate a large quantity of money or wealth. They're all going to be very different, and they've also got very different technology trees, building trees. You're not stuck to doing one thing. It's a sandbox game, so you can go about it your way.
And of course, it's not just animation, you also have other tools at your disposal that a tabletop game doesn't have, for example, music and sound effects. So do you feel that they're a very important part of kind of encapsulating that tone that you're looking for?
Oh, very much so, and we're very lucky to have an amazing audio department. I mean, they did a fantastic job. Some of the guys who worked on Alien Isolation, and they've come on board and worked on this game now. So we've got real pedigree, you know, BAFTA award-winning artists here, and I think once you get to hear it, you know, there's some gorgeous music, but also the creatures. It really, you know, without that music, they wouldn't feel as real and as frightening and as awesome as what they do.
Yeah, I have a fond memory of going into the sound room back when we were creating this the Blackfire Pass demo, and hearing the Luminarch of Hysh firing for the first time, just in a sort of enclosed space with these huge speakers next to me, was really something special.
Well, thanks for joining me in these interesting surroundings.
Chilly confines.
Extremely chilly. So I'm going to go and get back to some relative warmth. I don't know about you guys.
Oh.
So
Hopefully.